What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Now this is a little late on reviewing like different types of attachments and whatnot. I'm a little late coming into Black Ops 6, really going into in-depth, right? I wanted to see if there's really much of a difference between the ported compensator and the compensator with these ARs. Because on a general outlook on players builds, right, you're seeing a lot of people use the compensator over the ported compensator. Now, are they just using it because on the numbers they see that the regular compensator has actually more gun kick control and more vertical control, while the ported compensator only helps with that first shot recoil? This is just me trying to play devil's advocate, because as I'm trying to think of it in a Call of Duty dev perspective, right? Why am I going to make an attachment called a ported compensator that really only benefits that first shot recoil? How does that overall on the bigger picture help the player with recoil control, or if it actually helps the players have overall aim or better control of their recoil, or are they just putting out an attachment just to put on an attachment? What is going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Pure Noble. I'm just a fellow Call of Duty player that likes to nerd out on everything Call of Duty related. We talk about the season changes, we talk about Call of Duty news, we talk about weapon balancing, we talk about the new weapon reviews, we talk about tips and tricks here and there that I learned as a Call of Duty player that I hope that I can instill to all new Call of Duty players out there that are just coming onto the scene. But if anything, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Keep killing it out there. So let's dial it back for new and casual players out there, right? If we go into muzzle, we go into ported compensator. The benefits of a ported compensator shows here. First shot recoil scale is minus 50%. There's going to be a 25% reduction in the recoil gun kick and 25% additional vertical recoil control. Compared to the compensator is, instead of having that first shot recoil that's completely eliminated, you're getting no reduction there, and you're getting actually a 37% recoil gun kick reduction compared to the ported compensator's 25%. And then vertical recoil control, instead of it being 25% with the ported compensator, you're getting a 38% additional control with the vertical recoil. So again, with the majority of the Call of Duty player base reading these stats, right, at first impression, it honestly looks like the compensator would be a good choice, and personally I still feel like it's a good choice after the testing that I did today. So if that's the case, again, I wanted to figure out why the devs put this attachment in and why they felt like this attachment would make the gun play differently or the players feel differently when using this over the compensator. So you know me with my iron sights, I always talk about I love using iron sights compared to scope just because I'm a close range player. So that's what I tested first. I had a kilo build that's going to be an iron with compensator, and then we have a kilo build with the iron ported compensator, and all the attachments are going to be the same for all of these builds, minus the differences between putting a compensator or ported compensator on that build. So for my kilo class, where I have iron sight and compensator on, these are going to be my attachments: compensator, reinforced barrel, extended mag 1, ergonomic grip. We're only going to do 4 attachments because I don't want to skew the results by adding in, say, recoil springs, right? Of course, when you add recoil springs, it's going to be even harder to tell the difference because you're adding more recoil control. The only thing that changes on these loadouts is going to be whether I put on the compensator or the ported compensator. So we're going to take it back to the firing range, right? We're going to start out with the iron sight compensator attachment. So this is going to be the recoil for it. Fairly standard, right? The recoil, we're seeing a lot of that recoil gun kick control. We're seeing a lot of the vertical kick being reduced. I'm barely pulling down on the sticks to control it. The only thing that you're going to see off here is going to be my horizontal kick, because I have no horizontal control on these attachments. But now let's switch it over to the iron ported compensator. Let's try this out. Now again, it's very hard to tell the difference, because unless you're pausing the game or you're in the firing range just like so, and you're really trying to look for the recoil difference, that's when you can kind of see, because what that first shot recoil control is with the ported compensator is essentially this. It's that first shot, that first kick that you see. With the ported compensator, you're not going to get that much of a kick. Now you do the same testing, right, with the one that has compensator only. You notice how there's much of a bigger kick. But when you're playing in close range fights like this, especially on like a resurgence map where you're getting up close in big VR, are you really going to tell the difference, or are you going to really need that visual difference on recoil control when you're in your close range fights? To be honest, I don't think so, and that's why I think it's very hard, and it really makes not much of a difference between the two. And because it's barely noticeable and you can't tell the difference, right? If you're looking at it stat wise, as a player, I'm thinking, okay, if I can really tell the visual difference between the two in regards to recoil control, my might as well go with the compensator because I'm getting more gun kick control and more vertical control. So this led me to further testing, right? Not only I tested with iron sights, I'm like, okay, maybe for your close range fights, you're not going to tell much of a difference. But what about when you have to take it to long range? Say you're a big BR player only and you're oftenly using the smallest scope, which is probably a 2x and then at most a 3x or a 4x. Does using a ported compensator make a difference in those gunfights when using those type of sights? So using the 2x and ported comp, let's see how the recoil looks on these fights. So now when you put in a 2x and you're fighting specifically at this third dummy, looks like it's 50 meters and above. That's the only time where I actually seen a difference from using a 2x with just a compensator. This is the one with the compensator on. So I think this is kind of the only situation where the compensator would kind of benefit you, because if you're shooting a long range target and they're moving left or right and you're trying to trace them, and say you don't want to reveal your position yet because you want to make sure you get a good lock on before you start firing, at that first initial fire as you're tracking, that gun kick is going to throw you off slightly. And sometimes when you are in those gunfights, right, and you get that first shot gun kick recoil, for some players it is hard to get back on target after that initial gun kick. Going back to the 2x comp, this is how the ported comp looks again. With the feel and how I have to pull my sticks to counter that first shot recoil is non-existent when I use the ported comp. I don't have to do that. But when I know I'm using a regular compensator, I know that once I fire my shot off, you're going to get an initial kick. And I have to be ready with that with my vertical pull down on my right stick. And then my next thought after doing all of this testing, I'm like, okay, we know that there is that first shot recoil when you're not using a ported compensator. Is there anything controller setting wise that you can change to kind of counter that first kick? And unfortunately, not that I can think of. There's no settings that can counter it at that exact millisecond where the shot fires. You can only start counting the recoil the moment that the second shot starts to fire, but by then that first shot already kicked your aim upwards. So my overall verdict, and this is what I was just thinking from the initial part, I just wanted to do testing for it, is that the compensator generally does better. It does better on paper, and it still has high utility when you're trying to apply it in your gunfight. The only time your ported compensator is going to work is when you hit your long range fights here and you're trying to trace the target initially. If you are practicing your aim, if you're practicing your recoil, even after that first shot kick, you can still get back on target and still handle that vertical recoil kick that's happening as the target is moving. But what do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Let me know what attachments that you've been using specifically. Are you using more compensator? Are you using ported compensator? Do you agree with the situation where the ported compensator would work in those long range fights but not necessarily anything else? Let me know. And that's all we're gonna have for this video, folks. If this video gave you any additional insight and context that you did enjoy, that gave you value, please drop a like on the video. It helps it tremendously in the algorithm. And if you enjoy the content overall and you also want to nerd out with Call of Duty with me, please drop a sub to the channel. We'd love to see you here for the next video, okay? But as always, stay pure, stay noble, and hashtag bring back honest gaming. Later, guys.